So we've seen huge companies in the US making massive layoffs, tens of thousands of people being replaced by AI. And the same thing is happening in China, but with a very different strategy. You see, China is also big in the AI race. In fact, you could say this is the race of our lifetime. Who's going to master AI automation and agents quickest? It's going to be the key to basically infinite efficiency. And China realizes that, just as the United States does. But the way that China is approaching it is very different. And in today's video, we're going to talk about what that difference is. We're going to predict who's going to win the AI war. And we're going to talk about how you can remain safe during all this madness. So first off, we're going to talk about what China is doing. Yes, China enterprises are replacing lots of people, but it's at a much slower rate. Reuters reports that they got a 26-year-old contractor who works at a major firm and basically mentions they've completely slowed hiring and they're churning out existing members on a very attrition-style basis. She says, quote, "The tasks most people can do now can be completely replaced by OpenClaw." Basically, after a person writes all their workflows in OpenClaw, basically they can be fired. And if you're not familiar with OpenClaw, it's essentially an AI agent framework that allows you to automate AI into your workflows. Basically anything you can do on a computer, it can potentially be replaced with AI in the tech stack. You know, you think about what if ChatGPT was just doing this for me? That's basically what it can do. A little bit more complex than that, but it's an AI agent framework for automating tasks. And it went super viral. Record an entire video on this. I'll post a link to that video here. Regardless, the big fear that we're seeing right now is, well, sure, I can train my AI agent to perform tasks, but as soon as I complete that, I'm actually going to be replaced. And I think that's a major fear. And by the way, there are some safeguards against that, and we'll cover that here in this video as well. How do I protect myself from being replaced by an AI agent that I actually train? We'll talk about that here in just a moment. The reality is that Beijing is really pushing this right now. They are pushing companies to adopt AI to improve productivity, but not so fast as to raise alarms. You know, it's kind of funny here in the United States, maybe not funny, but we're seeing in the United States, a company like Meta will say, hey, we're firing 20% of our workforce for AI, and then they'll see a stock bump. Not always, but there's a common belief amongst fans and audience members that, you know, these companies, these enterprises are blaming AI when really AI is not the problem. It's corporate bloat, or it's mismanagement, or software companies on the decline and they're just trying to free up a bunch of capital. I could see it both ways, and I think in some cases that probably is true. But again, this is a much different approach that China is taking from the US, and I think it's an interesting dichotomy in the way that they're managing the replacement of human beings. You know, in the US, it's move fast and break stuff, right? Companies like Meta, Amazon, Oracle, they've laid off tens of thousands of employees just over the past 6 months. Why? To replace these humans with AI agents, or just to free up capital for AI investment. Now, Chinese labor laws require companies to seek approval for job cuts exceeding 10% of their workforce. And there are multiple cases in China where the courts have actually denied requests by companies to do this. See, companies need to take a much more slow and methodical approach to the layoffs. And, you know, I feel a little bit conflicted here because sure, you know, companies, if companies feel like they want to move fast and take some risks, okay, sure, I get that. I think that makes sense. And if a company is bloated and needs to do a layoff, then, you know, they kind of need to do that. At the flip side, if you have way too many people getting let go at the same time, you know, that creates a vicious cycle where it doesn't matter how efficient your product or company is, if nobody can buy the products because nobody has a job, well, that's no bueno either. Another thing that's interesting over in China is most of the jobs being cut are front-end jobs like marketing and administration, which is, again, kind of the same as we're seeing over here in the United States. And as somebody who's in the marketing world, I can definitely see this. I was just hosting a webinar for PodFest Virtual Conference, and I said, listen, in the marketing world, I'm using AI to do tons of stuff, you know, in like, for example, if I go into Google Ads to see, hey, what ads are working, what can be improved, I could just ask the AI inside of the Google Ads and it's going to give me a lot of really good advice. Now, that said, I need to put that through the lens of my experience and my understanding of my products and services. But, you know, this is the type of work that might have taken me a long time before, just kind of going through and optimizing these ads. And now, you know, I can kind of do it much more quickly. And in fact, in some cases, I can just use Claude Cowork to do a lot of the work for me and then go in and double check that it's all accurate. Another example was an engineer at Alibaba's cloud division who said that AI-driven layoffs have already begun and are expected to continue on a slow basis. Again, attrition, it's gonna be a slow attrition. We're freezing out hiring and we're just constantly churning out people. We're not doing any big splashy moves. And if you're not familiar with Alibaba, Alibaba is a massive marketplace for e-commerce products. You know, a lot of the people that are doing drop shipping on Shopify stores or Amazon are sourcing all their products from Alibaba. Basically a place where you can get cheap goods to sell on e-commerce. A big data engineer at a Chinese tech giant said his manager has already started ranking employees by token usage, and that metric, the way that they're using tokens, that they're token maxing, is going to be directly related to performance reviews and promotion opportunities. And we talked about that a lot this past week. I think for me, it's one of the biggest themes of the week. It's this idea of token maxing. Like, are you using enough tokens on your daily basis? And quite frankly, we talked about this the other day. This is going to be every company is going to have a chief AI officer, but they're also going to have a key role is going to be a token engineer. How efficiently is your company using tokens? You might say, Mark, that's crazy. Why would they care? Guys, just a few days ago, we had a report that a company spent $500 million in 1 month on tokens. You need to have a token strategy. You need to understand how your tokens are being used, how your agents are automating. You're going to be training your team on the right models to use for which job. Like, for example, if you're using Claude like me, and you're using Opus, their top end frontier LLM, Opus 4.8 to perform menial tasks like responding to emails, you are just burning tokens. So knowing to use the right tool for the right job could cost millions of dollars, or save the company millions of dollars in efficiency. This is going to be a job. If I had a prediction, 3 of the biggest roles that aren't really officially being talked about are going to be cybersecurity is going to have an explosion in cybersecurity. We're going to have an explosion in token efficiency, and we're going to have an explosion in AI officers, guys that know how to go in and really implement AI at a high level. Anyway, we're already seeing that based on what this top engineer is saying. He also says, quote, "It is relatively forced. One should not use AI just for the sake of it. I still can't shake the feeling that I'm getting closer to being replaced." And I agree with this. You don't want to use AI just for the sake of using AI, but we need to create this flywheel. And again, this is something I do with YouTube specifically, is I create a flywheel where I'm continuously getting a better understanding of what works in the algorithm and what doesn't work. In some cases, I'm experimenting with a lot of things, but I want to create a flywheel where I know something is better. Like, for example, if I look at my thumbnails, I've run tests on thumbnails where I know that like a certain shade of yellow performs 10% better than a different shade, which is completely crazy to me, but that's why we create these flywheels and these tests and this data to continue to test. I do the same thing with ads on Google Ads and YouTube ads, TikTok ads, and so on and so forth. Anyway, shouldn't be a big surprise that this is happening in China. Beijing has this AI Plus initiative, and in this AI Plus, it aims for 70% AI adoption across major sectors by 2027 and 90% by 2030. And I don't live in China, but I find it fascinating that the Chinese government is saying like, hey guys, you must use AI. We are pushing AI. You can't fire people, but you've got to be using AI. And it's going to be interesting, this approach, the more top-down approach that China has, A, and B, the kind of, let's not fire all of our people very quickly. I think that there's probably some truth in the middle, but quite frankly, I do like the idea of moving fast, breaking things, but the flip side is you're going to have people that lose their jobs. The other flip side of that is, though, there's going to be a lot more opportunity because, as we've seen with companies like Salesforce, for example, if you fire too many people too fast, you end up needing to rehire. We saw this with Klarna, and we're going to see this with a bunch of companies. Now, Citibank estimated in a recent report that 9.6% of Chinese jobs are at risk of AI-driven displacement. That's 70 million people that are on the chopping block for these jobs. And that risk is even higher for workers in their 20s, about 13.5%. So again, one of the things that is kind of surprising to me about this AI displacement that we're seeing is I kind of expected that all the older people were going to get phased out because we didn't understand AI, we weren't ready for it, and some of that is going to be true. If you're not able to deploy AI agents, you're probably not long for the corporate world. But what we're actually seeing is the opposite. It's young people that are not getting job opportunities. And I think that's probably because of two things. A, you don't have the relationships built up. The relationships that matter, guys. If there's one thing that I can really preach, relationships matter. The way that you interact with humans is going to matter more than ever. And that's probably going to be a challenge for young people, A, because they just haven't built up the relationships with decision makers yet. And B, they're growing up in an internet world where just a lot of kids don't know how to shake hands and look a human in the eye. That's going to hurt. I really put a big emphasis on this. As a father, I want my kids out there meeting people. Like one of my kids, he's very happy to go out and engage with anyone. My daughter's a little bit more shy, and I'll give her challenges and say like, hey, you're not getting ice cream if you don't make a friend at the pool today. Like, go out and make friends. Very, very important. Another quick tip for all the dads out there is get your kids to actually order food at the restaurant. So instead of you ordering at the restaurant, have your kid order restaurant, look the server in the eye, understand how to listen, ask questions, etc. Good skill to build up. In any event, these are some big things. And I want to get back to the point I made at the beginning is how do we survive this AI revolution? The reality is this is the year of the AI agent. You have to be deploying AI agents. You have to understand how to train them and how to take action, how to build the flywheel. And on the front side, it seems scary, right? Because, oh gosh, I'm training AI agents who are going to replace me and then I'm not going to be needed anymore. But if you understand how to do that, if you understand how to create an AI agent that can replace your time, you become much more valuable to organizations. Much more valuable to organizations. So get on it, deploy the AI agents, and just start scheduling things out. If you're in Claude Cowork, one of the things that I'm getting into is finding tasks that I'd like Claude Cowork to do and just automating it, just saying, hey, on this day, at this time, just do it. And let me know what you find out. It's creating this little army of token burning robots. Anyway, what do you think? Who's going to win out this AI war? Is China's slow, more controlled approach going to win out? Or is the US move fast, break stuff, and innovate going to win out? I'm kind of in line with the move fast and break stuff strategy. I just think it tends to work better. It is risky though. It is risky. Anyway, put it in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say, and I will see you there. And by the way, if you missed yesterday's video, check it out, guys. I got a hot stock tip on probably one of the fastest growing technologies in the world, which is autonomous freight. Autonomous freight, some big booms there. Listen, I'm not a stock, you should do your own research, but check yesterday's video. It's an interesting conversation. I'll see you there. Peace.